You're listening to The Hurt Locker, a podcast that opens the door on men's mental health. And for today's episode, we've got none other than the award-winning comedian and writer, Julian Dean. Julian,
Hi.
welcome.
Thanks for having me, Yinka. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, good.
Cool. So, you've been briefed a little bit by our producer, Tim, about The Hurt Locker.
Yeah.
It's just an uncensored chat.
Yeah.
You know, we can go anywhere
Cool.
you feel comfortable and all that. So, and I don't do much research, so I'm very much by
You and me both.
but I'm very much seat of the pants. Just see where we go and that, you know.
Yeah, same, man.
Okay, cool. So, for the benefit of people who don't know you, who is Julian Dean?
It's just some geezer.
Geezer.
I've been doing stand-up comedy for about 18 years. Yeah, I do a podcast with Carl Donnelly called TVI. That's going well. Yeah. I'm a dad. I don't drink. I vape. I drink espresso. I hit the gym, obviously. As I put my earbud arm up in the air. Yeah. So, yeah. I guess that's
Okay.
me. A little bit of me.
A little bit of you. So, where are you in the country?
I'm in London, southeast, Greenwich.
Greenwich. I was actually down in Greenwich just in August and that, yeah.
Oh, cool.
I had a nice little excursion along the Thames and ended up at Greenwich and that, you know, so.
Oh, nice.
That was
it's nice around there, yeah.
Very nice around there. So where was growing up for you then?
It was actually Greenwich I grew up. I was born in Australia, but I came to England when I was about 1. With my parents, obviously. And
you weren't smuggled there. You weren't a boat person then, no?
Nah.
No, okay.
I don't know. Actually, I can't remember. Maybe I was.
You might have had Nigel Farage on the
Yeah,
side, saying,
just
go
washed
back
up on the beach in Dover, nicking everyone's job.
Yeah, taking all their girls and
exactly. But so I grew up. I was in Plumstead, which is kind of Greenwich Borough, until I was 8. Then I moved to Greenwich, and grew up there. Yeah, in the rough side.
Rough side. Anytime somebody mentions Greenwich to me, I don't see any rough sides to there.
Yeah, it's generally like a really nice area. We're at the best of both worlds, really. East Greenwich is a bit more rough, I'd say, but everywhere's yeah, I mean, there's new developments all over the place. Everywhere's looking nice. But the part you saw of Greenwich is like really nice around there.
Yes.
Yeah. The one way, the Cutty Sark, all that.
Yes. All of that.
But there's little council estates just behind everything. You know what I mean?
Hidden away.
Yeah, from the tourists.
Always. So tell me about growing up then. Are you an only child, or do you have siblings?
I've got a sister. I've got some other half siblings that we've discovered lately, but I grew up with my sister Jane, who's 18 months older, and my mum and my dad. My mum was a nurse in Greenwich Hospital for years, and my dad, and we grew up in kind of a bit of a hostile, I'd say, house environment. Caused a bit of PTSD.
Okay.
Yeah, so I I was quite a nervous kid growing up, and then I hit like 12. I was always a naughty kid. Like I was in trouble since I could remember, you know what I mean?
Unpick that. What does that mean, a naughty kid?
I mean, I was getting in trouble in school very early, you know what I mean? I was just mischievous at first, I guess. you know, I always felt like there was a lot of, I don't know, maybe back in those days, like it was a bit more like teachers were just strict. It just felt kind of, I just rebelled a lot, you know what I mean? And certainly once I hit like 9 and 10, I became, you know, I got suspended from primary school. And that's young, you know what I mean, to get in that kind of trouble. Yeah.
What did you do?
I smashed a window on the way to school, on another school, and the teachers ran out. I was always a fast runner, and I always thought like, you know, I could always get away. So I don't know, I was just kind of fearless, but more like, not, I don't know about fearless, but there was no consequences, ain't even in your head. You know what I mean? It was just the excitement of it, bit of an adrenaline, I think. I smashed a window and I'd just run off, and the teachers would chase you, just be swearing, running off like a little Asbo kid. You know what I mean? But then as I got into secondary school, I was a really nervous kid. You know, I didn't like school. You know, sometimes when you got a turbulent house when you're growing up, it makes you fear the world a bit, I guess. So ironically, you just want to stay at home. But once I hit like early teens, I went off the rails a bit, like with my behavior, and I got expelled for numerous things. The last thing kind of just was this last straw, I guess. I got sent to another school, secondary school. So I was in the 4th year in this new school. I got expelled from there, and then I went to a naughty boys school for my whole 5th year, sort of my GCSE year.
Yes.
I was in a naughty boys school with about 15 kids and about 5 teachers. And I really liked it there, man. You could smoke. There was no uniform, table tennis, school trips. They really treat you better, man. If you're naughty and get expelled and no school would take you, they treat you well, man. They end up thinking these kids ain't going to follow no rules. But yeah, and then so I went there until I was like 15. I left school. Yeah.
Did you do exams?
Nah.
No,
I didn't do. No, I went back when I was 18 and I did NVQ level 2 in business. But I'd kind of grown up. By the time I was 18, I'd grown up a lot. You know what I mean? I got it out of my system quickly. Yeah, so I went, I got in trouble actually when I was 17 quite badly. And my dad was in Australia because they'd divorced. And my mum sent me to Australia for 8 months, and I got trapped there.
That's an interesting word, trapped.
Well, I was on literally though, I was on a one-way ticket. My mum said I'm going there for a couple of weeks just to clear my head because I'd just been expelled from college in Woolwich for setting a fire extinguisher off. And so she said, you know, clear your head, go and stay with your dad for 3 weeks. So I got to, because I got an Aussie passport,
okay,
I could go there on a one-way ticket. So I got to Sydney, and then I slowly, as the couple of weeks went on, I slowly realized that, oh, they're not letting me go back. You know what I mean? So it was like setting up a new life. And I ended up maybe a couple of months into that getting a job. First of all in McDonald's, and then outside the clothes shop on the microphone because they like the London accent. And I just saved up, and it took me 8 months, man, to get my one-way ticket back.
Were you always determined to come back to Blighty?
100%, yeah, that was all that it was going to happen. Yeah, I mean, I looked into stowing away on a boat. I looked into doing a robbery. Like these were planned things, you know what I mean? Like my dad found a balaclava and something that I'd hit. I mean, it was crazy, man. Like, you know, it was a very. I grew up a lot there, though, to be honest, and I'm always grateful of that time because I came back. You know, I had a lot of time on my own, and I came back and just knew what I wanted more. You know what I mean? And you know, you get friends who are putting in who are like going into Feltham at that point, or like, drugs felt, it was kind of that path I felt like I was definitely on, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So I came back, and so I joined and then I went back to sixth form.
Okay.
And just settle down a bit more normal, you know what I mean?
Before you continue, it's interesting for the benefits of listeners. When you talk, there's a reflection. You're looking back at the past in terms of what you've experienced, the way you are. And I'm just wondering, through those times when you classed it as naughty behavior and all that, did anybody ever sit with you? Anybody ever say, let's talk, what's going on in your life?
You know what? Not really. Not really. My mum was she still is a very good mum. Like, she was a nurse. She had a lot of issues with my dad. I don't know how she even managed it with him, but nobody actually did that. No. I remember once I was in trouble in primary school for throwing snowballs at cars, and my mum had to speak to the head teacher. And so I'm sitting there, my mum's speaking, and my mum said, "Oh, he's got a difficult home life." And the head teacher went, "Oh," and it was almost like that was an excuse for my behavior. So I think in a way that kind of made me think, oh, that was easy. You know what I mean? To get out of being in trouble, basically.
Okay. So there was an understanding that your environment and where you were growing up wasn't the best, as it were.
Because I didn't even know that really at the time. I didn't know that my home life was, any different to anyone's.
I'm just thinking there. I'm going to fast forward. But you, right at the beginning, you alluded to the fact that growing up was challenging, i.e., even more than challenging, traumatic in some ways.
I guess
at what point in your life did you realize, damn, this was not a good environment to grow up in?
When you see, I guess my behavior was, I was always the problem, until I got to a certain age. To those around me, authority and teachers and parents and my friends' parents, you know what I mean? I was the kid that they wouldn't let their people play with, and that, you know what I mean? I would always get people into trouble. But I didn't really, I guess in my teens, I kind of look back. I got put in a children's home when I was 14 for a few months because of my behavior. But it wasn't like a young offender. It was like just a normal children's home. But they thought taking me out of my environment and putting me in there would help my behavior. You know what I mean?
But you bore testimony to the fact that, I'm going to say this, you tell me if I'm wrong, your mum was in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
You bore witness to that fact.
Yeah.
You rebelled against that through your own behaviors, and yet you're the one who ends up in a children's home.
Well, they were getting an injunction on my dad, and I was always close with my dad. I love him, and he loved me, he loved my sister, but he was very young emotionally. He died in 2009. We were there, and we were very close with him. He had a lot of good sides to him, but it was like, as I grew older, it was like, oh, he's about 9. Like, I was older than him emotionally when I was about 15. You know what I mean? When I spent that time with him in Australia, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? I was more level-headed.
Yes.
And what was the question?
Well, I was just saying then, in terms of you're the one who ends up in a children's home, even though the environment that you're growing up in is quite toxic.
Yeah.
But testament to the fact that your mum's in an abusive relationship, you're seeing that, and yet it feels like you're the one who gets punished.
I was getting punished a lot, yeah. And I guess that, you know, it wasn't for no reason though. My behavior was, I was uncontrollable. You know, like I would just go to there'd be the naughty kids and then there'd be me, you know what I mean? Like I'd just take it to another level. So rightly so, my behavior got punished. But I mean, I don't look back at that children's home as a kind of sad time. It was I feel a bit sad on my mum, but for me, it was an adventure. It was exciting. You know what I mean? I knew people in the home.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it was all right at the time. Looking back, I was definitely, you know, mixed up and stuff, and acting out, but it was an adventure to me. It wasn't all sad and I'm getting dragged away from my home. You know what I mean?
You said that it was sad for your mum. Why do you say that?
Because my mum is very proper. She did everything right. She's very conscientious, very nerdy, very what the neighbours think. She worked her way as a career nurse for years, worked her way up to running the hospital. She's very proud, proper, did a degree, saves money. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The opposite to my dad.
Yeah.
And I just felt like she didn't really deserve to have a delinquent. You know what I mean? She wanted me to be like a marine biologist or something. You know what I mean? And I remember once we had a meeting at the home. We used to have meetings every week, like with social workers, my mum, me. And one time I was messing around with my mates, like smashing car windows. I looked over and I saw my mum at the bus stop after the meeting. And I always remember that. I just felt a bit sad and sentimental. And then I just quickly switch it off and go back to being the naughty kid. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of, you know, you can distract yourself as a kid. You're not really emotionally intelligent or in touch. The sad feeling can come out in different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was your relationship like with your sister?
Yeah, she was always older than me. So she was always the year above me in school. But it was, we're close. Yeah. You know, but then as I kind of got into self-development and healing and healing is a weird word, but you know, getting past
we'll come to that. We'll come to that word. That's interesting you bring that up.
I guess that's the way I see it, thawing out, you know what I mean? Healing, changing your mind and you know, I went to, like, I got into addiction and drinking and stuff like that. Once I went through that and I started to do kind of self-development, I guess, I ended, you know, when you work on yourself so much, you can actually help other people a lot more, I think, when you've been through stuff. So I see myself, you know, in my 20s, it would be more me kind of being an ear for my sister.
Okay.
Like, even though I was the problem growing up, I don't know if I'm explaining that right. I'm like,
no, you
all
are.
over the shop.
Did she turn to you or?
Yeah, she turns to me a lot.
Or
Yeah.
did you just observe things that was going on in her life and offered?
Well, a bit of both, actually. Yeah. I've always been somebody who people could talk to, even when I was naughty. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'd always, I don't know, I wouldn't really analyze it at the time, obviously. It was only where I was told afterwards that, you know, I try and help people, basically. Like, even now, I guess, yeah.
So tell me
I'm
about...
no saint or nothing. I'm not trying to, like, virtue signal.
Show me somebody who is. Show me somebody who is. But when you spoke about addictions, what was your substance or substances of choice?
As I got into my 20s, alcohol and cocaine, and the other thing that you make from cocaine a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
But in my teens, it was just weed. Well, hashish at the time,
Yeah.
like, but every day, you know what I mean? Daily. It was,
Okay.
which don't feel like a problem, but you know, every day for years, man, it messed me up anyway.
Well, when you say for years, how long are we talking?
From about, I mean, I first smoked weed when I was 12, and also lighter fluid. We went through those phases of doing the
Yes.
gas.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
when we were 13, because my friend died of it in Greenwich Park, and I just carried on, you know, just doing it, and it was just getting out of your head, I guess. But I guess weed was the main thing for the whole of my teens up until about early 20s, I guess. Yeah, about 23, 24, and then I stopped just suddenly on New Year's Day, and I started, you know, socializing a bit more. I mean, we were all like smoking it together. I was always with a group and stuff, but that's when I started drinking. Yeah. And I thought, drink, man, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Chat to whoever, like feel confident, uninhibited, or, you know what I mean? Everything goes away. And so I started drinking. Yeah.
Okay. And then
And
you
then I did
progressed.
that. I drank not relatively that long compared to, you know, other people I know, because I'm in recovery now for like 20 years. So
Can I
I
be honest
drank.
with? Can I be honest with you? You don't look old enough.
Oh,
I'm being
really?
on. I'm being honest. You don't
Oh,
look old enough. I like the
that's
way
good.
you pulled your shoulders back. Then, yeah, I'm loving that with your bicep.
I've been doing shoulder press at the gym, man. I'm trying to see how they're looking.
Well, you don't look old enough. So
Yeah.
okay.
So I went into recovery in 2003, the first meeting I went to. So before that, I guess a decade of drinking. Whenever I drank, there were problems, but I weren't like daily drinking. It was more like binges. But towards the last couple of years, they were getting more frequent and longer, and you know, they were affecting. Somebody said if they're costing you more than money, you got a problem. It was costing me a lot, like job, relationship, home. I had 2 little boys then. You know, it was a hard one the last couple of years. I went to Belmarsh for a couple of weeks for drink driving. But that was, you know, that just sounds like that was nothing really. It was more sort of, I just couldn't stop. You know what I mean? No matter what happened the next morning, I'd be like, oh the remorse of it. And then 2 days later, you forget, you know what I mean? You're on it again. And that went on for a few years.
Okay.
So I definitely had a problem. And then I went into a recovery meeting in 2003, and I just got stuck in, man. I wanted it bad. You know what I mean?
What was it that made you want it so badly?
I just knew my own mind and I knew my own feelings, and it was like I was a slave to it. And I wanted to get a handle on it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't like the person I become when I was drunk. I'd do things that I wouldn't do if I wasn't drunk. I just knew that I was dangerous to myself when I was drinking and on drugs. I knew what I was capable of, the thought processes, the uninhibited, fearless, almost like I wanted, you know what I mean? Like I'm just bringing it on. It was like, yeah. So it was, I knew something had to change.
And at the pathway for coke, etc., already started then, and you'd already gone down that pathway.
Oh, the coke and stuff. Yeah, I was on that. That went with the drinking. Yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, go on. Sorry.
Can I go back a little bit?
course.
You said
I thought I'd be funnier, to be honest. This is all quite it's nice though. I like it. I thought I'd be doing jokes.
Oh, you thought?
This is heavy, man.
Welcome to the Hurt Locker.
That's good.
You mentioned, and you just kind of skimmed over it, when you were around 13, losing a friend.
Yeah.
Were you there at the time?
I wasn't there, no. I hadn't seen him for a while, like a couple of months, because I'd got expelled. So I hadn't seen him, no. And I never actually did the same thing with him. I was doing it separately.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it did at the time, to be honest, I don't know, it didn't stop me though. That's what frame of mind I was in. It just, and he was a healthy kid, like he was a boxer. He was a good boxer, man. Like he was the hardest in our year. I used to arrange fights with him. I used to love it. I felt like I was like Dana White in hindsight. And he had a fight with the other hardest kid in our year. And he was a healthy, he had abs, he had pecs, you know what I mean? He was 13 and he was jacked. And like, so it, you know, over the years, I've thought about it a lot more. At the time, I don't know, man. I'm just doing what, I don't know. It didn't make me stop, no.
What, I mean, looking back now, at that period of time, what do you feel now when it comes up, when it rears its head?
It's a thing that I think about, or like I have spoken in therapy about a lot, I guess. You know, maybe enough now I've spoken about it, but just to my mindset and who I was, it definitely feels like a past life. It's a little bit not completely resolved.
In what sense?
In that I can't quite make sense of my behavior and what I was doing, you know what I mean? Just this complete carelessness. It was like me v the world. Like, you know what I mean? Any authority and the whole world, basically, you know what I mean?
You were putting two fingers up to the world.
100%. And I was also at the same time as you might have, if you, for people who were around me or whatever, they might have thought I was a funny, crazy. I mean, people thought I was crazy. My behavior, I was actually I knew what was going on inside. I look back as me being really sensitive and scared.
Good.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But you would have thought I was a piss taker. I was loud. I was outgoing, and I wasn't. I was very introverted. I was very sentimental. I was very sensitive. I was very fearful, self-conscious. You know what I mean? All of these things.
So where did this bravado come from then, do you think?
I mean, I was always small for my age, I guess. It was just survival, I think. You know what I mean? Like, it was either, you know, you're going to get eaten alive, I guess. So you have to be funny. You have to, you know, as I got into my teens, you know, you have to be up for fighting. You have to be, you know what I mean? And all that stuff, or you get eaten alive. You know what I mean?
And where you're up for fighting.
Yeah. Even I was actually scared, man, but I definitely, people,
come on.
People might have thought, I always had an interest in fighting since, like, from Monkey Magic when I was about 4 years old. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I used to get the broom handle and just be Monkey Magic, and like, or like Karate Kid, you know, yes. Kickboxer, blood sport. I was always had a fascination with it. But I never saw myself as I was always small and frail, and I had all these big, strong mates, you know what I mean? But as I grew into my teens, later into my teens, I guess, started, you know, kickboxing, karate, stuff like that gives you a bit of confidence, probably overconfidence, you know what I mean? But I'm just surprised I never got sparked out, to be honest. That's one of the things
there, but the grace of God go I, as it were.
It felt like God's watching, man, because I could have got, I mean, I should have been knocked out a couple of times, man. I always had a big group of mates with me as well, you know what I mean?
Did you feel protected by them?
I did, yeah, I did.
Can I ask on that point? Did you feel loved by them?
That's a good question. I did, yeah. I always felt loved by my friends, yeah.
And was that something that
loved and popular and respected, and you know what I mean? All of that. Yeah, I did.
And was that something that wasn't to be found at home?
I did feel love. I did, yeah. Maybe there's something in it. Yeah, it's different. It's different. Yeah, there might be something in that. Yeah, definitely.
You've mentioned being sober for the past 20, 21 years and all that. How's
I had
that?
I had a couple of years in the middle of that where I sort of experienced, like, I went on a bit of a journey with like psychedelics and DMT and ayahuasca and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I did pick up a drink a few times and smoke weed, but that was a couple of years, and I got back into recovery. Yeah. I had to do a bit of research, you know what I mean?
Did you beat yourself up when you picked up again in those periods? Good.
I didn't actually. Good. Nah, I didn't beat myself. It was just part of my journey, man. Like I didn't beat myself up. Nah, I mean, I was intent on, I thought I was taking recovery to another level by doing the mushrooms, LSD, DMT, all of that stuff. And then the more, you know, I went to sort of mad places on it, and it made me realize, oh, the answer is right there in front of me already. You know what I mean? It is meditation. It is prayer. It is learning in this reality. This is what the game is played. It's not played in the 7th dimension with the mechanical elves. You know what I mean?
The 36th chamber, as it were.
Yeah, exactly. And Pluto, where you're blowing your, you know, you become God for an hour. Like, it's the game's played helping other people in this reality, making a cup of tea. You know, this is where the GTA game is played. We're in it. You know what I mean?
100%, 100%. There's so many things. I just like going backwards and forwards and all of that.
Of course, man.
That time in Oz with your old fella, those 8 months. You said emotionally that you found yourself to be more mature, far more emotionally more mature than what he was, intelligent than what he was. Was there ever a time whereby you come to loggerheads with him?
We would do, yeah, a couple of times, but it was always, you know, it was always like I would kind of rise above it. He was like a bit like the child, and I would go, okay, I can't, you know what I mean? There was no, I did butt heads with him growing up a few times, like physically. We had a couple of tear ups, but in Australia, you know, I saw a good side of him as well. Like, it was fun. We had a laugh. I saw him as as not this ogre coming home, and I got a, you know what I mean, strict. He was really strict when we were growing up as well, just really irrationally. So there it was. We did, like, you know, there'd be little things like he just emptied my bank one day. You know, he would thief. He would, like, But he was quite a well-to-do guy. Like, he spoke well. He always wore a suit. You know what I mean? He kind of, he wasn't like a council guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where like my mates, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, he was kind of in entertainment. He was, you know, he was a very clever guy, but we did butt heads a bit. Yeah. But I'd always just have my awareness. You know what I mean? I just kind of, I wouldn't be stubborn or drag things out. It was more him just losing it a few times.
Did you understand his background, how he grew up, etc.? What made him the person he became?
Yeah, I always thought about that. Yeah, and I always kind of accepted him for who he was. He was very old when I was born. So when I was like 16, he was in his like mid 60s. He was good for his age, but I always thought, I know he was in an orphanage. He definitely had some serious trauma. You could see it coming out, you know what I mean? And yeah, so it did make me empathize with him a lot. Yeah.
Interesting.
But he was impossible. Like, you couldn't, it was just so impossible to kind of rationalize with, that I just knew not to, you know what I mean? It just wasn't worth it. And I wasn't scared of him at that age, but not physically, but I don't know. Yeah.
Did you pity him?
I did. Yeah, I did. I felt sorry for him.
Did you lose respect for him?
Yeah, I did. I think I lacked a bit of that, really.
That must be hard for you now, looking back.
Yeah, well, if that's your male role model that you don't respect as a man, it did have issues, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that's when you speak about your friends and feeling loved and that type of thing, I'm thinking maybe, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you or anything like that.
No, I like it, man.
But maybe that's why with those group of friends, even though you were small, you felt safe, you felt loved, you felt protected by that gang of people.
Definitely. And I always had friends that I respected as well. You know what I mean? And it was kind of, yeah, definitely. I definitely found that elsewhere.
Did your dad ever tell you he loved you? Did he ever put his arms around you?
He did, actually. Yeah, I did feel very loved by him. And my sister, I could see his love for her. You know what I mean? He was just kind of a mixed up guy that might have had some borderline personality that was undiagnosed. I suspect he did. But emotionally, you know, he was a very emotional guy. Like, you know, I saw him cry a few times.
I was going to ask you that. How was that for you, seeing him cry?
Yeah, it definitely had an effect on me. Like, if it was something big, like his mum dying, it's one thing, isn't it? But if it's like he's crying over something that, you know, it would always be sort of some abandonment thing. Like, I'm missing for like an hour and I come back and he's like having a fit in tears and like like he's been abandoned. And it's like he's a 6-year-old that's lost his mum. And I did kind of think, okay, you know what I mean? But I just like, I was quite mature actually emotionally in a lot of ways. And I kind of, I guess in hindsight, was more the kind of solid parent role in some ways. Not totally, but just there was an element of that, definitely.
Just going back to the relationship with your sister, how was it for her growing up? Have you ever spoke about it?
Yeah, I'd say I'm a lot more open, I guess, than she is. She loves our dad a lot, and you know, she's got her photos up. She talks about him, you know, because he had a really funny side. He was you know, he was good in a lot of ways. He was a character, you know what I mean? He was charming, he was smart, everyone liked him. So Jane, I guess, sees that more than the trauma or anything really. I guess she never really had the journey that I had.
Would
Maybe
she'd never admit that her upbringing was traumatic to the
I
extent that
think
yours was?
she would. I guess she would do. She would do, yeah. But she might not focus on it. Or, you know, when somebody's going through life kind of normally, you know, office job or just whatever, doing everything normal, you don't really need to. You're not really coming up against any brick walls where you're like, fuck, what's the matter with me? And then you need to look at it.
Yeah.
If you're going along life okay, then there's no need to, is there?
Yeah.
So I guess the reason I've dissected it so much is because of the trouble that I've been in, the addiction, you know what I mean, the police growing up, the children's home, the Australia, you know, all of that stuff. And also getting into stand-up comedy, I had to kind of, you know, look at myself and develop even more, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We're gonna touch on that in a minute. What about conversations with your mum about your upbringing? Have you ever had them now, or has that been a
We have here and there, but you know, I don't think she's got anything to feel bad about, so I don't want her to either. You know, she was a good mum. She still is. Like, we're very close. I see her, like, I drive over there once a week at least.
Nice.
It's almost.
Does she get you? Does she understand you?
I guess so. Yeah. I guess so. I guess a part of me still trying to prove something. You know what I mean? As a
No,
lot, we all are.
Go on, explain. You're smiling as you're telling me that.
I don't know, like I want to be the son that she deserves, you know what I mean? And I do, you know, I'm a good son today.
100%.
Yeah.
She loves you.
She does.
She
And
loves you.
you know, she worries about me and
100%.
all of that stuff, you know what I mean?
100%.
She's still got that naughty boy in her head though sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, oh, Julie, you know what I mean? I'm like, Mum.
We won't go there. We won't go there. So tell me then, you used the word right close to the beginning, use the word healing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking your pathway into comedy was also a pathway. I don't know if that preceded therapy, as it were, but it feels like comedy was a pathway towards your healing.
I'd say definitely, yeah. I've definitely, as I've, you know, gone on doing stand-up for years now, I've grown along that way, and recovery has grown alongside it. You know what I mean? It's definitely gone hand in hand for me. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not being funny. Well, I'm not being funny, but who told you that you were a comedian? Who told you that you were funny? Who told you that you could make a career out of
mean,
comedy?
if nothing else about me, like my whole life, people have always said that to me. Even teachers that didn't like me, they would be like reluctantly, or I'd say something and the class would laugh. You know what I mean? Like they've always said that. I've always made my mum laugh no matter what. My dad, you know, all of that stuff. So that was always something. I had confidence in that. I didn't have confidence in I could get up on stage and speak in front of people. You know, that took a lot, man. That took a lot of fucking NLP, hypnosis, praying, meditating. You know what I mean? It took a lot of that, but I always thought I was funny. Yeah.
Can you still remember your first gig, the first time that you stepped up on stage and how you felt?
Yeah, it was the last day in November in 2005. It was a Sunday, and it was in Chalk Farm above, I think it was the
I know.
Enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, and I was so nervous. I'd rehearsed my set so tightly. I knew it back to front. It was like about 3 minutes or 4 minutes long or something. And I got up on stage, and it was only after the gig somebody said to me, "Your eyes were shut for the first half of the set." I didn't even know, man. My body was like, "No," you know what I mean? And it was only afterwards I went, "Oh, I must have just got up and closed my eyes. I didn't even know." Oh shit. But I did it, you know what I mean? And it was like a fucking hit or crack, you know what I mean? Afterwards.
Yeah, a proper adrenaline rush.
Yeah, it was the fact they were laughing and stuff was good, but it was more like I never thought I could get up in front of a room and do that. And it was more like I remember sitting in my car at the station afterwards and just like feeling really emotional. Actually, I'd overcome a massive hurdle.
Come on, talk to me about that.
Yeah, well, I just sat I got off the tube and my car was at the station. And I just sat in my car for a minute and just was like, whoa. Like I'd overcome a massive hurdle, like a big block that I had, you know what I mean? And I felt really emotional at the time. And I know some people get into stand up and they just get up and do it or whatever. People are confident. It was a real, and then the next night I did another gig and, I was I just felt like, cause I just sobered up. I just got sober as well.
Yeah.
So I guess, when you give up substances and stuff, your feelings are more intense, maybe.
Of course. And you haven't got a crutch?
No, I didn't have a crutch. I was a rabbit in the headlights, and I was doing something, like going into an office in work was scary. Going to just commuting to work, I was anxious. So, when I first started, sobriety and getting up on stage, that was just a whole nother level. So that was big for me. Yeah.
Okay. But you've gone on to be award winning. You've been on world tours with Paul Chowdhury.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've been, how was that? Being in an arena setting to thousands
Yeah, I mean
of
that
people?
again, yeah, I'd been going for a few years then, but yeah, that blew my mind as well. It was like, there's been so many things along the stand-up journey that has just made me, I'm comfortable now with it, and I can tell how far I've come. That I'm not even thinking about the gig on the day, you know what I mean? I think about it like 20 minutes before I'm on stage. That's just come with a lot of experience, I feel so much more confident in the world. Talking to authority or talking to just interacting as a member of society. You know what I mean?
Do you feel as that you're part of society now?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I'm a good dad, a good son, a good friend,
A good
a
brother.
good stranger, a good brother, you know what I mean? And all that. And I'm definitely, got my faults and stuff.
Haven't we all?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But generally, I read a book years ago. It
Go
was
on.
called Families and How to Survive Them. And it's
Go
by
on.
a psychiatrist called Robin Skinner. And John Cleese actually helped with the book. But when I've been to therapists, it's been on all of their shelves. It's quite a good book.
Okay.
But that kind of made me see where I was at, sort of how far down I was, just in terms of emotionally and mentally healthy.
Okay.
And it was alarming. And I was like, shit, man. And then kind of that might have planted a little seed. I want to get as emotionally healthy as I can and mentally healthy. And I think that I've come a long way, yeah, since that.
The pathway to therapy. before you embarked on that, how was it for you? What was your attitude towards therapy? Was that something that you sought out for yourself, or was it somebody who knew you had said, Julian, do you think you might benefit from talking to somebody?
I remember as a kid, they sent me to a child psychologist, and I just weren't, you know what I mean? It weren't even on my radar, man. I'm just going because I'm told to go there. It was me, actually. I was drawn to it. So I'd ask about it, and I'd hear a friend is in therapy. So I'd go and speak to them, get their therapist number, ring them. That was my first time. Yeah. My friend was going through it. Somebody I was just met doing stand up, and I was drawn to it, and I like sought it myself. Yeah.
And how was it going through? Was it online or was it face to face?
It was face to face back then. Yeah. And I went to her house, sat in her room, and just blurted out. And she said, yeah, you've definitely got PTSD. I was like, oh, okay. and she was like, she was more surprised how I didn't stay on that pathway that I was on. She was like, how did you, what happened? It's like, how did you not go down that road? You know what I mean? Of sort of Feltham, all of that stuff. Which was an interesting question. I don't know.
I'm sure you do.
Well, I'd like to say, but I just had determination that there was a better life, and determination that I could see my parents' kind of defects, determination that I know there's another way. You know what I mean? There's a healthier frame of mind to be in. I guess hope, determination. I was definitely had determination. I keep saying that word.
No, that's okay.
I felt like I had my eye on a goal. Whether it might have been instinctive, you know what I mean? Who knows? But yeah.
Did it feel scary opening up to a stranger, or you just felt this is
Not
my
really.
space?
Yeah,
I'm
not
gonna use
really.
it?
It didn't really feel scary, I don't think. It felt scary going into a recovery meeting. I was like a rabbit in the headlights, and everyone was around all happy, and but it didn't feel scary talking one-on-one with someone. Now, there might have been a bit of anxious feelings walking to the door and stuff, you know what I mean? But not actually eye contact with one person. I think it was all right, yeah.
By the time you had walked through that door, were you at your lowest, as it were, or had you already been to your lowest and then realized I need support to climb back up again?
I guess I was definitely not in a good way, but I wanted answers. You know what I mean? I wanted to resolve. I wanted to heal. I wanted to grow. I don't know if like that was my rock bottom as such. It was more like I might have had a rock bottom, and I just, you know, it was just another layer. You know what I mean?
When you look at sobriety and you look back over the years of self-medicating, whether it be coke, whether it be alcohol, whatever, can you reflect now and think, well, this was my way of self-medicating, this was my way of not confronting the pain, the agony, the anguish that you were in at that time?
Definitely, yes. And I do look back and kind of think I was lost. My energies were focused on that. It was just naive and lost, really. That was the way I was coping with it, which is the opposite way you should be coping with it, because you're putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. You're not healing. You're making yourself worse. And for someone who's sensitive and vulnerable and sentimental and all that stuff, yeah, I couldn't have survived 20 years of it. No.
On that point, I'm just going to be direct there. Did you ever contemplate suicide?
Not really, not seriously, no.
What does
I
that
may
mean? What does that mean, not seriously?
I mean, I might have had moments like at my lowest of like, you know, buses going past and problems over if you just, but like the therapist said to me once, like, "Have you thought about suicide?" I was like, "Yes." And then she said, "Have you planned it at all?" And I said, "No,
Mm.
I've never planned it." So I do think there's a big difference between a thought and planning. You know what I
You
mean?
spot on, and I'm glad you said that. There's a difference between the thought, the plan, and the act
Yeah,
itself.
exactly.
There's a world of difference. And what I like to say to people is that whether society acknowledges this or not, a lot of us do have thoughts about suicide. A lot of us, and we need to normalize that.
Yeah,
The issue is then when it shifts from a thought to the plan to the
yeah,
act itself. That's
yeah,
when we have to up our game, as it were, in terms of interventions, in terms of support and all of that.
yeah,
How does it
definitely.
feel? How does it feel acknowledging that?
It feels okay. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Because here at the Hurt Locker, what we want to do, we want to normalize everyday feelings, everyday emotions,
Yeah.
because it's important for people to know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
That as successful as you are, that you can also find yourself in those depths of despair,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely.
You've used it a couple of times now, healing. You've alluded to prayer. I don't know if you're religious or not, but you've alluded to prayer. You've alluded to meditation. What does the healing pathway look like for you? What has it meant that you've had to change, that you have cast to one side, that you do now, and that you do on a regular or a frequent basis?
I mean, as weird as it sounds to a lot of people, certainly my friends or people I know, I I've always prayed since I was a kid. I don't know where I got it from. I might have got it from my school because we used to do the Lord's Prayer in assembly.
What, our
Um,
Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
yeah, that
Okay.
one. I still
Okay.
do that. Yeah. But I think if nothing else, whether someone's religious or they believe in God, I do think there's a power to that. I think there's a power to humbling yourself and having whether you're talking to the other part of your brain or God, if you believe, then that's helped me a lot over the years. Yeah. You know,
What?
praying
Okay.
as a kid, just an anxious kid, as a teenager in Australia, right? You know, a lot, like just throughout every stage of my life, I've always done that. Yeah.
And it feels like you've took a lot of strength and solace from that.
Yeah.
That things can be better. That things will be better eventually.
100. Yeah, definitely.
And tell me about the meditation. Tell us about the meditation.
Well, I got into Eckhart Tolle probably
Yeah,
2010. I first discovered him, The Power of Now.
100%.
Uh, and that was an anxious time. I did the audio book, then I did A New Earth, then I did Stillness Speaks, then I did every one of his seminars I could find, hours and hours and hours. But there was definitely a shift in me, you know, and I've recommended him to a lot of people, but he doesn't resonate with everyone. I think, you know, find your own flavor. It might be Tony Robbins, you know what I mean? It might be Jesus, it might be Allah, you know what I mean?
It's true.
Um,
It's
but
true.
like his teachings were just so pure for me. Um, and you know, yeah, so that kind of led me into meditation, or just being conscious of your breathing, or just conscious when you're doing something. being in the present moment, the
That
infinite.
mindfulness, yes.
Yeah, mindfulness is what it's called, I guess, nowadays, isn't it? But just don't live in tomorrow or yesterday as much as you can. You know, the brain goes there anyway, like, but just bring yourself back to the moment. You know what I mean?
How
And I'm not
long?
always successful.
I'm glad you said that. I am glad you said that, because sometimes working with clients say, "Oh yeah, I tried a little bit of mindfulness, trying to be present, and it doesn't work."
Yeah.
And I'm saying, but you need to practice.
That's why they call it practicing meditation. Yeah, because really, the meditation is there for when you're in real life. You know what I mean? It's like helps you just respond and not react.
Spot on. Spot on. Spot on. Do you love you?
I do sometimes.
That's honest.
Yeah, sometimes.
Why the hesitation?
Because there's been times, you know, I can be fragile. I can have the rug pulled out from under me. You know
And
what I mean?
how do you respond to that when that occurs?
I go back to the basics. If it's really, you know, you know, so if you're grieving or something, like something harsh, like you're gay, you know what I mean? You can feel your heart beating out your chest for like a few months, like you're in a bad way. I just go back to the basics, I guess, and I know this too shall pass.
Okay.
And I just, you know what I mean, try not to indulge too much in anything that's bad for you. Try stay, you know, have a bit of time off the internet, eat healthy, look after your body. At least that you can control that.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you can control what you eat and what you do physically, and know that life is painful sometimes.
I think life is pain.
Yeah.
I think life is pain. Can I ask, who's the most important person in your life? And I know you've got 5.
I mean, my children would be, you know, I'd walk in front of a bus for them. So,
But you can only pick one person.
to stop the bus to get on it.
You can only pick one person. Who's the most important person in your life?
I mean, I can't pick one of my children, can I?
You can pick whomever. I've just put the question out there.
I'll pick my youngest child then, because you got to be most protective over them.
Okay. If I said that you were wrong, if I said the most important person in your life is you.
Like it. Well, I'm the most important person in your life. Is that what you mean?
You're the most important person in your life, yes. Sometimes, does that feel selfish?
I guess it's true in a lot of ways.
It's in all
Because
way.
I can't be there for my children or my friends or my family or anyone unless I am, you know, unless I am the empty cup, unless I am, you know, I can't help a blind person by becoming blind. You know what I mean?
100%.
Or you can't help a
100%.
poor person by becoming poor. Like, I have to look after myself. And that has been a
100%.
big motivation for me, actually, being a solid rock for other people. You know, all my family issues, not all of them, some of them trickle through, man. Obviously, I can see them trickle through, but a large part of them stop at me. You know what I mean? I think that's been a big motivation for me.
Do you step up and take responsibility then?
I do, yeah. For someone who's innately irresponsible, I do. I do step up, yeah.
How does that feel?
It feels great. Yeah. I like responsibility. You know, and I'm innately irresponsible in a lot of ways, man. But I just pick them better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me, there's a lot about life that experience teaches us
Yeah,
that are lost on us when we're young,
I
and we
know.
have to go through the trials and tribulations. And
Yeah,
if we're connected, if we understand, if we're humble, then we can learn and pass on.
definitely. I think humble, I like that word, humble. A true knowledge of oneself as one is, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
humility. And it isn't less than, it isn't meek, you know what I mean? It isn't. I think the true definition of the word meek might be the meek shall inherit the earth.
Okay.
It's the humble, you know what I mean? It's the open, it's everyone's equal.
Can I ask you the question? Just if I was to say the word and what does it mean to you? I want two periods in your life. If I was to say the word vulnerability at the age of 21 and vulnerability and what it means to you now,
Yeah, good
how
question.
would it differ in terms of how you interpret it?
It would. At 21, vulnerable men fight back, shake it off. You know, substances, uncomfortable, negative, pussy. You know what I mean? You're a pussy. But now I feel my feelings, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's a vulnerable feeling, sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's impatience, sometimes it's love. I'm a human being with all of them. They're just all chemicals bubbling in all of us all the time, you know what I mean? Like
Definitely.
little electric circuits, and put one foot in front of the other, and you know, you whatever feeling it is, you're feeling alive, aren't you? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we're breathing,
And we're grateful for that.
and we're grateful for that.
It's funny you talking about chemicals and energy, and I was at a conference with I don't know if you ever come across his readings, Gabor Mate.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
And that's exactly what he spoke about. We're
Oh,
just
cool.
a composition of just energy
Yeah.
configured in all particular ways. And
Yeah,
he's not
going through
wrong.
our own filters of our experiences. Like anxiety and excitement are like the same energy, aren't they? But they're just going through
Absolutely.
different thoughts. So you
Yes.
can change track, you know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
step to the side. Hang on a minute. I might be just really excited.
Yes. You've got children. How are you as a father?
I'm a good dad. Yeah, I'm there for them.
What makes you a good dad aside from being there for them?
I'm
What makes you?
supportive. I listen. I try, you know, just the physical side of it, like the health and all that. I try to motivate. I guess in a short way of saying it, I listen, I understand, and I'm there for them. Yeah, I'm not the best dad. I'm not a strict dad. You know, I can be irresponsible, but like my daughter didn't want to go to school a couple of weeks ago. She was upset, and I didn't like seeing her anxious. And I was like, well, let's go bowling then. Don't worry about it. Like, don't, you know what I mean? I was like, I don't care. Well, don't cry. Let's go. I'm not going to take you in. I'm not going to drag you in. You know, I'm a mate, which, you know, some might say that's not, you shouldn't be there, mate, but I am her good friend. That's, I just prefer that. Yeah. I just love her so much. You know what I mean? And she's growing into an amazing young girl. She loves school. But if she's anxious for some reason, don't worry about it.
If she's anxious for some reason, then she's anxious for some reason, and to acknowledge that.
Exactly. And I'm not, come and get me authorities. You know what I mean? I'll take her out. I'll play it forward. I'll take her out of school. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But I want to protect her from being forced. She was anxious, man. It was genuine. She's very honest with me. We've got a really close relationship. I took her to Paris for Valentine's Day because she wanted to go. And that really helped her, when she came back, she got straight back into school, and it was problems with school before that. And it was instinctively, in hindsight, the right thing to do. You know what I mean? So I've got to listen to my heart and trust our relationship.
How does that feel? Trusting your own gut.
It feels good. It feels good. Yeah. It feels like, wow, man.
Powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
Julian, we're coming to the end soon. You've been a great guest on the Hurt Locker.
You've been a great host, man. Some good questions.
Thank you. Going back to you as a child, I'm thinking 8, 9, smashing school windows, running away from the teacher and telling them to F off and all of that. If somebody could have sat down with you then, what bit of advice would you have loved them to have offered you?
Maybe I don't know about advice. It's a hard one to what I would have listened to. But maybe they could have started off with just giving me a big hug and saying to me, no matter what you do, no matter what you've done, I love you. And holding me for a minute and just saying that. And then that might have dropped me my defenses. And then we could go into some advice maybe.
That's beautiful. Can I ask, have you come across a book called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse?
No, I haven't, no.
Can I ask you to check it out?
The Boy, the Fox, the Mole and the Horse.
Nearly The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse.
Ah.
But
that one.
That one, not the other one, that one.
Ah.
But you know what? Just you saying that about the hug.
Mm.
If you look at this book, I think it will speak volumes to you.
I will.
It will speak volumes to your daughter and to your other children.
Thank you.
No, thank you. How's it been for you being on the Hurt Locker?
It's been great, man. I've enjoyed it. It's like I didn't know where we were going to go. I thought I was just going to talk. I like all the stuff that I've said. It's not like it goes around my head. It was just kind of you drew it out, yeah. But it's good to kind of see where I'm at, yeah.
It feels that you're on life's journey, but you're in a good place. You're in a good direction.
Yeah, I feel that, yeah.
I could have touched on working with Morgan Spurlock and all of that.
Oh yeah, that's all.
Yeah. But you know what? It's been great to have you on the Hurt Locker, and I hope sometime in the future we can continue our discussions some more.
I'd love that, man. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
It's a wrap.
Yeah, boy.
The Hurt Locker is a safe space for our guests to openly share their mental health experiences. If you have been affected by any of the content in this recording, then please reach out for support. If it is an emergency, dial 999. If you would like to talk to somebody today, then please call the Samaritans on 116 123. Stay safe.